an Iowa guy, I wanted to be a part of that.
This is the Hometown Hoops Podcast with Drake Men's Basketball and your host, Michael Admire.
All right, it is the Hometown Hoops Podcast. My name is Michael Admire here on the Drake Sports Media Podcast Network, where we are powered up by Learfield. Every episode of the Hometown Hoops Podcast is streamed and archived on the Drake Athletics YouTube page. It also streams live on the Drake Men's Basketball Facebook page, or you can listen to the free Varsity Network app from Learfield or where for Hometown Hoops Podcast. Like, share, and follow the Drake Sports Media Podcast Network. Coming up, we're going to take a look ahead to the Emerald Coast Classic with the tournament director, Maury Hanks. Maury is a former college basketball coach. In fact, he was an assistant at Drake in the early 90s. Now he puts on multi-team events, or MTEs. He's also put on some one-offs, a game here and there where a couple teams need a neutral site game. He helped with the Big Four Classic, hashtag RIP. Also the Cayman Island Classic, which the Bulldogs were a part of a couple of years ago. And of course, the tournament that Drake will play in next weekend. So some good stuff coming your way on how scheduling has changed, not only for mid-majors, but for these MTEs, and how it continues to get more and more challenging. It is so good to have a new episode here, and good to be back on the mic after a little bit of time off on paternity leave. Family's doing great. Thanks for everyone that has sent messages on Instagram or Facebook. Really appreciate that. In fact, we went to our first Drake basketball game as a family of four last night, so that was a ton of fun. One thing that was really fun for me this week was getting a chance to put the audio down, listen a little bit. One thing that was really fun for me earlier this week was getting a chance to watch the game Monday night against Charleston, like many of you, as a fan, trying to figure out flow hoops and make it work on my television. But, seeing it for the first time live on a broadcast, and a couple things really stood out to me. One, it's clear the defense is going to have to be the identity of this team. They have great length, and as we saw on Monday night, when they're connected defensively, they can be one of those top three teams in the Missouri Valley Conference, like Coach Henderson has really stressed this offseason. And we're starting to see glimpses of that. And I thought the Bulldogs put together their best 40 minutes of the season. Listen to the postgame show with Coach Henderson. Shout out Rick Silvestrini and Mike Swain for doing a great job the other night. But in the postgame conversation with Coach Hendo, he was like, it's not even close. Like, that was by far the best 40 minutes we put together. So it was kind of clear to everybody that watched that game or was a part of it. And I hate missing those games too, because the first true road game, especially a trip like this down to Charleston, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes. We saw, you're watching the highlights here and some fun stuff like Jalen Quinn flexing after an and one, or Shetler going off, Aaliyah going off. I mean, that's all fun stuff, but what really goes on these trips is what happens behind the scene. And you could tell some of that growth and that connectivity happened because of how they played on the floor. And one of the things I was really impressed with was the rebounding effort. In fact, 16 rebounds between Braden Applehans, Andrew Aaliyah, and Eli Shetler. 16 rebounds between those three guards. In the previous four games, they had combined for 27 rebounds. So that tells me a couple things. The biggest of which is that it shows me that the coaches have learned something about that trio. And that's a great sign. I mean, this team is still, these coaches are still getting to know and understand the everything about these players. Andrew Aaliyah hasn't played a ton. Eli Shetler hasn't played a ton. Braden Applehans has played, but minimal minutes over the last few years with some injuries spliced in there. So still not a ton of game film on these guys. And so once you were getting into actual game action, this coaching staff that only brought one player from South Dakota State is really getting a chance to learn more about that. So I think that's a really, really good sign. And as we kind of move along in this long journey of a season. So I'm really excited about tonight. Hopefully you're listening to this on the way to the game, or maybe over the lunch hour here, throwing the AirPods and check this out. But the reason I'm excited, it's not a glorious matchup. Buena Vista is not an opponent that's going to really challenge the Bulldogs tonight, but Drake has to continue to get better. I mean, that's obvious. They played good Monday. There was still that score was closer than it should have been. So there are some things that you kind of nitpick at a little bit here. They got to continue to get better, but tonight is one of those nights, one of those opportunities where it can be all about Drake. It can be all about the Bulldogs. Those 13 guys take the floor and, try to continue to do things that winning programs do, winning teams do, because they've got a massive weekend ahead next weekend in Destin, Florida, against an SEC school right out of the bat with LSU. So it's going to be a fun stretch here tonight. Can kind of begin to set the tone for that, kind of carry that momentum from Monday. Momentum's a fickle thing. You want to bottle that stuff up from the low country there in Charleston, South Carolina. All right, now it's time to go one-on-one. All right, here on the Hometown Hoops podcast, we welcome in Maury Hanks, who is the director of the Emerald Coast Classic. And Maury, I appreciate you joining me here to give us a little background on the Emerald Coast Classic. What jumps out to you when you look at this year's group of 4 teams that are going to be down in Destin, Florida, November 28th through the 29th?
I think they bring a lot of different things, different parts of the country. You got DePaul, kind of the same area as Drake is from, and then you've got LSU and Georgia Tech from the South. You've got teams from bigger conferences. Then Drake's in, but Drake's got great basketball tradition. They got great fan base, so I'm expecting a lot of fans from Iowa to come down there and enjoy Thanksgiving and some warmer weather and the best beaches in the continental United States. We've had Iowa State down there a number of years ago. Iowa's been there twice, and I hear from a lot of the people that, stop by to say hello or, ask who's running the tournament. They come up and tell me how nice the place is. How, a lot of people, especially from the Midwest, if they go to the beach, they don't think of the Panhandle. Where I live in Knoxville, everybody either goes to Destin or they go to Hilton Head. So everybody's aware of, how nice the Destin Panhandle area is. But the Midwest people, they're in for a treat. The best beaches in the continental United States. It's like going to the Caribbean without needing a passport.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think Iowans are just happy with sun that time.
Yes.
Late November. So we'll take it. And yeah, everybody I've heard from that has either gone down there for a tournament or goes down there for vacation. I know that's a place where people go regularly. What are Iowans and Drake fans going to see when they get down to Destin for this Emerald Coast Classic?
Well, a lot of, like I said, the best beaches in the continental United States. We usually, I can't predict the weather. If I could, I'd buy a lottery ticket, but it's usually high 60s to low 70s. The airport is very convenient. Fort Walton Beach Airport's 8 miles away from the arena where we play the games. That's at Northwest Florida State College. It's a junior college. It is as nice as any early season. Like, it's not a ballroom like you do and go play in the Bahamas, or it's a nicer gym that they play the big tournament in Maui, and it's 2,400 seat, all chairbacks, no bleachers, lots of parking, free parking, easy in and out, and great restaurants down there. But again, the ease of travel is one thing that a lot of fans really like. They like the great beaches, and usually we have very good weather. I'm in. I'll be down there. All right, Maury. How does one person even get into this type of industry? I think this is something even prior to joining Drake Athletics, I didn't really know anything about the MTEs and how the tournaments are run behind the scenes. But it's been fun to learn more and more about. How did you get into it? Well, I was a former college coach. Actually, my last coaching job, I was at Drake University, Rudy Washington's first year, 1990. And then I got out of coaching. I went back to Los Angeles and got into the sports management business, worked with the biggest agent in the world in overseas basketball. He ran Italy, Spain, Greece. I was lucky enough to work for him for a number of years, and he got me a job as an NBA scout. I was an NBA scout for about 23 years, but I started Global Sports in the early 90s, and I'm not smart enough to come up with my own ideas. I take other people's ideas, and I think I do them better because of my attention to detail. So when there used to be exhibition teams that would go around in early November, back in the day, the season didn't start till Friday after Thanksgiving. And so for 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of November, they played exhibition teams. And when I started it, there were basically only 2 of them. And I got really, really good players, and we went around the country and we beat a lot of really good college teams. And coaches liked playing us because I would say, hey, do you want me to play zone? Do you want me to play man? Do you want me to press? Because I knew I was there to get their team better. And so, again, that wasn't my idea, but I just got better players. I started a Division III tournament in Las Vegas. Everybody wanted to come to Las Vegas. We had 5 separate 4-team tournaments. Simpson used to come all the time. Co-College from Iowa used to come all the time. And then I did that. Then I started doing events on college campuses. Mick Cronin's one of my dear, dear friends. And when he was at Cincinnati, he did an MTE to honor his mother. And that was my first event. And that's probably 15, 16 years ago. And we started the Emerald Coast Classic about 11 years ago. We've had some great teams. We had Virginia 2 years before they won the national championship, Baylor 2 years before they won the national championship. In 2019, I had what I thought was the best 4-team tournament in college basketball. Tennessee, Florida State, and Purdue were all ranked in the top 10 that year. They all made the Sweet 16, and then you put in a very good VCU team. And so we've had very, very good teams, and we're very excited about the matchups that we have this year with, DePaul playing Georgia Tech at 6 o'clock on Friday night, and that's Central Time, and then LSU playing Drake at 8:30.
I imagine through your time and putting these events together, a lot has changed. I know, especially in the last few years, with how the numbers within the net have changed all sorts of scheduling. What has changed most for you in the last 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, it's not even that long. It's maybe the last 2 years. The two things and I'm really glad I'm 63 and not 43, because I'd get out of the business. I'd have to reinvent myself. But the money with NIL and that's going to change a little bit, I think, because everything's supposed to be revenue driven, revenue sharing. You have a tournament in Vegas that's giving teams a couple $1 million to go play there. And also the net, where you don't see teams wanting to play teams like Drake. Brian Harden, I've got to know him pretty well the last couple of years. He called me a year ago, tried to pick my brain about scheduling. A lot of people do. I've been at this a long time. I'm old, as you can see by my gray hair. And I told him, he didn't want to hear what I told him, but I said, Brian, the days of you guys getting games in my opinion, is over. They're either going to play really bad teams or they're going to play teams that are guaranteed to be in the top 40 or 50. And if they don't think you're going to be, there's a chance that at the end of the year, you're not going to be in the top 40 or 50. I don't think they're going to get the games that they have in the past. I could be wrong. I hope for the schools like Drake and other places, but I don't think I am. And number two, I'm not a big fan of the net because I don't, they take into account offensive execution, defensive execution. I'm old school. When I used to coach, did you win the game or not? Like, it's a bad analogy. If I'm a quarterback and I play and I'm 3 of 17 and throw 5 interceptions and my team wins, I'm still called the winner. I might not have played good, but my team won. And so I don't really know. And that's why you see at the end of games, coaches leaving their starters in longer. They know before the game, what the spread is supposed to be. And that's why you don't see, the schools like Drake and some of these other schools, get the games that they've done in the past. Mm-hmm. And I know Brian and the coaching staff there at Drake are very excited to be in the event. But going forward, like I have Power 5 teams put in the contract that, like, this won't happen going forward. A team like Drake, I couldn't do it.
Yes. Yeah. How do you kind of balance that then in putting on a good event, but then also, you have to cater to the teams that are going to be there?
Yeah, I mean, if you get the right team and they'll bring some fans, I'd accept that. If it's a team that's a good team, it doesn't bring any fans, doesn't have really a national cachet or anything, I may think against it. But again, I am not joking when I say I'm really glad I'm 63 and only need to do this for a couple more years. So, because there's just too many balls to juggle,
No, it's a lot, and a lot of people to keep happy.
Yes.
It's a little bit of the industry as it is, though. All right, kind of final thought for you here. This is great for Drake to get down there and have some of the opportunities to play in LSU right out of the gate, and then either DePaul or Georgia Tech on the next night. When these teams roll down there here this weekend or in a couple weekends, what are you most looking forward to with bringing these four down there?
Just getting it started. I know there'll be really good games. I know there'll be exciting games. I know the teams will have a good time. There's all four teams are staying in a couple different great hotels right on the water, and everybody will have a good time. There'll be really good competition. And again, for any fans of the Bulldogs, they can go to emeraldcoastclassic.com to get tickets. We have a men's tournament and a women's tournament. Click on the men's bracket link. It'll say tickets. You click on that. It'll show you the arena, and it'll show you what seat is available. Tickets start at $20. That's for 2 games. You get 2 games a session. So, as good a deal as you can find in college basketball. There's not a bad seat in the house. There's only 11 rows from the floor to the top row. So this is a very intimate arena. Again, they're all chairbacks. There's not a bad seat in the house. So for $20, Allegiant Airlines flies nonstop from Des Moines down to Fort Walton Beach. So it's very easy travel, and a lot of great places to stay, and come support the Bulldogs.
I like it. And for fans that aren't able to travel down, how will they be able to watch these games? I know that's always something that fans are interested in.
Yeah, the game Friday night will be on CBS Sports Network. The championship game on Saturday will be on CBS Sports Network. That'll be at 6:00. So on Friday night, they play at 8:30. They'll be able to see it on CBS Sports Network on Friday night. And on Saturday, the championship game's on at 6:00 Central.
Incredible. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Maury. Appreciate you. And we'll see you down there in a couple weeks.
Thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate it.